What's going on YouTube? West Hobbies RC. So today we're back with part 2 of the SAPAC L-39 rebuild. So as you've seen in the last part, we got the bottom and top of the wing fiberglassed, we got the tail fiberglassed, we got the servo covers glassed, primered, we got the fuselage stripped down. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set up the time lapse, and I'm going to finish getting all this yellow off. Use the heat gun and a scraper and get the most of it off I can, because sanding it just clogs the paper up. So I need to finish getting that off. We're going to prime the top of the wing, so we still have to prime the top, and then we need to do the last little bit of body work on the fuselage, which is the rudder. So this was cut for a repair job because the rudder was broken, as I explained. So this was a panel that we cut it out, put it back. So now I'm going to finish sanding it, smooth it all out. 90% of this Bondo will go away. I lay it on a little thick and sand it out. And then if I have to lay a second coat, I do, but usually I don't. So we're going to sand all that out. And then, like I said, tail is fiberglassed and primed. Have to wet sand that out, but I'll wait till I do the final sand on the fuselage, get it ready for primer. So with the tail and the wing panels, I use just regular Rust-Oleum filler primer. And then for the fuselage, because there is no body work on the fuselage and we have panel lines, so the filler primer lays a nice thick coat, which I really like, and it gives you a nice sandable surface and it looks good. It fills in all the weave, as I explained. When you fiberglass, you don't want to use the epoxy to fill the weave, you want to use your primer. And then when you wet sand it out, it gets rid of a lot of it anyway. So filler primer for anything that has like scratch imperfections or anything like that, filler primer works great. But for fiberglass fuselages that have no damage on it, so the rudder, this will be filler primed. This whole section, I'll spray a couple coats of filler primer on this. That'll fill all the little imperfection pinholes that we don't get with the Bondo. Stuff like that, scratches from the 120 grit sandpaper to knock it down, and then 220 over it. And then when I get to the fuselage itself, there's no damage here. There's no fiberglass damage, and we have panel lines. So I just use regular sandable Rust-Oleum primer. Now it is a different color, but that's okay, because after we sand everything, we'll prime the whole fuselage and wing with the same light color. I like to use the light color because it goes well with any color that you're painting. If you're painting a dark color, you can use dark and it'll be darker. If you're painting a light color, and depending on what colors you are, and that's a whole nother thing. So we're going to get all the yellow off, and then the only other body work we have to do is down here. We have 2 spots. We have a spot there, and we have a spot there, but we have to get all this nasty yellow stuff from the stickers off. So I'm going to set the time lapse up, and we're going to get to work getting the yellow stickers off. All right, so you guys just watched me scrubbing all the yellow. So now the yellow is all off. I ended up trying to use heat, but it just kept making a mess because it was just the glue left. So I just used acetone, since we're going to be repainting the fuselage anyways, and it actually didn't even eat the finish because this is a gel coated fuselage. So now we are officially ready for sanding everything, sanding the bodywork out on the rudder and underneath, and then we can prime the top of the wing. I also got the tip tanks glued into place, so they are glued straight, strong, everything's good there, so I can prime them all at the same time. So the whole top of the wing and everything will be primered. So I'm going to get to sanding on the fuselage, finish the nose and the bottom that I have to sand, do the body work on the rudder, and then I'm going to go ahead and get a coat of primer on the entire top of the wing so it will look like the bottom of the wing. Got to sand the bottom of the wing out to get some of those imperfections out. But we will get everything done up and primered out, and we're not, like I said, we're not going for 100% perfection. We're going for a flying weathered warbird look, so I'm not trying to get this 100% glass perfect smooth. But we're going to start sanding, and I will be back after we get everything ready for primer, or in primer. Alright, so unfortunately I forgot to hit the record button on the time lapse while I was sanding this fuselage down, but fuselage is sanded down. It's been thoroughly cleaned with rubbing alcohol, microfiber rags. All the paint and all the loose dust is off of it. Of course, we'll go through it one more time before we paint, but we are scuffed. The body work is done underneath on both sides, and the rudder is about as good as it's gonna get. It's not perfect, but it is decent enough. So I am happy with it. I'm gonna still wet sand, which will get rid of a little bit of this imperfections. Can't talk. But from what it looked like to what it is now, it looks good. So tail is done. Rudder has all been primed with filler primer, and the top of the wing is completely done. It's all been sanded or primed. We still have the sand. We have the cutouts marked. So now with filler primer, you have to let this stuff sit overnight for at least 20 hours because it's so thick that it doesn't. If you try to sand it right now, all it's going to do is clog sandpaper up. So I'm going to let this stuff sit till tomorrow, and then, which will be 2 seconds for you guys, and then I'm going to go ahead and prime the entire fuselage now. And I will be priming it again with this regular Rust-Oleum sandable primer. If you have no imperfections you need to fill in and it's already perfect smooth glass, this stuff is great, dries really fast, sandable within an hour. So I will spray the entire fuselage and wing with this filler, with this regular primer, let it dry for 2 hours or so, and then wet sand the entire airframe out, and we will be ready for color. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this dry, throw some sandable primer on it, and I'll check back in. We'll see what it looks like. All right, so we got everything primed. Fuselage is completely primed up. Wing, everything is primed up. Right now I just have the fuselage on the table. I let it dry for a few hours, so now we are ready for wet sanding. So again, I just made 2 little foam blocks real quick. I cut them in half. This is 2-inch thick foam, so that way I have a flat surface, and then cut them in the middle. So yeah, the cut doesn't have to look pretty, but the surface is flat, and that's what we want. And again, using this kind of foam because it will squish and it will follow the curves really nicely. So right now I just have some warm soapy water mixed up, Dawn dish soap and just warm tap water. So now I'm gonna go ahead and start wet sanding. So with wet sanding, it's super simple. I just spray the soapy water down. You don't have to spray it. A lot of times you can just get yourself like a Tupperware dish or a bucket, mix it up with soapy water, dip your sandpaper, your sponge, whatever you're sanding with, and then just start sanding back and forth. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the wet sanding. I'm gonna wet sand the entire fuselage, and then I'm gonna do the wing, the aileron and flap servo covers, the little cover that goes here, and the bottom belly cover that goes under the wing here, and the engine cover that goes over there. So I'm very happy with the way everything turned out. Again, the rudder bodywork is not perfect, but once it is wet sanded out and painted, you will not really be able to tell. But all the other bodywork came out great. Underneath the fuselage that was damaged came out perfect. The back that was damaged came out perfect. So I am happy. So I'm gonna set the GoPro up, set up the time lapse, and I am going to start wet sanding. So wet sanding the entire airframe with 400 grit sandpaper, using just Dawn dish soap and regular warm water, going over every square inch and surface of it. That'll give you a nice, beautiful, smooth finish when you're done. It does make a mess, as you can see on my table. There's water everywhere. Now with the wing, same thing, 400 grit sandpaper going through. With the filler primer, you have to let it dry a lot longer because it's thicker, but you'll get a beautiful job every time. So the time lapse you guys just watched is of the wet sanding, which was a lot of wet sanding. But we are all wet sanded out. Now we are ready for the base color. So we did 400 grit, 600, 800 grit wet sanding. Cleaned it all off. It makes a mess, but make sure you guys get it super clean when you're done. I'll go ahead and wipe it one more time before I spray. But we're gonna go ahead and start with some of this gloss smoke gray. This will be the base color. So the whole bottom of the wing, bottom of the fuselage, servo covers, belly cover, engine cover. Let that dry, and then we'll do a tape line because the scheme we're doing has a straight tape line across the bottom, and then start our camo up. So I'm gonna go ahead, clean this off one more time, and prep everything for paint, and then start painting the underneath of the wing, engine covers, servo covers, underneath the fuselage. But everything came out extremely good. I am super happy. Everything is smooth, perfect. Bodywork came out okay on the rudder. Not great, but not terrible. As good as it's gonna get. You can't even tell it was broken now. Fiberglass came out great on the wings. Everything is as good as it's gonna get on this model. So I am happy. I'm gonna start cleaning. I'm gonna get ready to start spraying, and after we get the base color down, we'll see what it looks like. All right, so paint has started. So we have the bottom done. We laid off 3 coats of color. Came out looking really good, actually. I'm very happy, very impressed with this paint. It looks super good, super shiny. It's been drying for a few hours and it's got a nice shine to it. Bottom of the wing is done, painted. Covers are done, engine cover, wing cover, servo covers are all painted. They all look great. Everything came out good. I'm super happy. So now I'm gonna let this dry overnight till tomorrow. And then, so I wasn't paying attention and this paint comes out really heavy. And I could just hide it, fix it, and not show you guys, but I screwed up. And I got a massive run right here. So it's not a little run at all. It is a massive run. So once this paint fully cures, because now we have to paint the top of the airplane, and then we have to let that dry and then tape off for the camo. But I'm going to show you how to fix a run. Not be scared if you get one, it's okay. They're pretty easy to fix. So once the paint cures fully, we can sand it out, use a razor blade, do what we have to do. But I will set the camera up on a tripod and show you how to fix that. But other than that one run that I wasn't paying attention and got, everything came out great. So we're going to let this dry overnight. I got the heat on, keep the garage around 80 degrees to let the paint bake perfect. And then we will flip it over, fix that run, and then start painting the top. So I will be back when this cures. Okay, so now the paint has cured. So I have the camera rigged up here, trying to see the run the best I can. Hopefully it is visible enough, as it looks like it is. So now the paint is cured now. Okay, so now we have this nasty run right here. And there's a couple different ways you can do this. Luckily, this is just regular base coat, no hardener in it, no automotive type 2K kind of paint. So the paint is soft. If you're using an automotive 2-part paint, you know, clear with hardener or primer with hardener in it or whatever, or maybe just a one coat paint with hardener and clear in it together, it's going to be really hard. So you can use a razor blade and just start cutting the runs out and then sand it away. Hopefully we don't have to do that because it doesn't look that bad. So I have some 400 grit sandpaper on a block and some 220 grit sandpaper on a block. So basically, I'm just going to go along the tops of the run here. Try to hold this so you can see. And just try to sand away just the tops. We don't want to go too deep. Granted, now this is going to be painted a darker color anyways. We just want to get rid of the run on the top of the clear, or the top of the paint. Runs really do suck, but they're not the end of the world. They're time consuming. And then once we get done with the 220, we can come back with the 400. We can get rid of the deeper scratches. So we're just going to want to come around here and just keep working the paint, keep working the run. Now, of course, because the run is so thick, a lot of the under part of the run's not going to be dry. You can see it clumping up because the paint isn't fully cured yet, but it is cured enough to take care of the run. And then we're just going to kind of want to feather it on out. Again, this is going to be painted a different color here. It's going to be a darker gray with the camo, so I'm not too worried about it. Then just kind of fade the area around. But now we have a lip. You guys can't see it or feel it, but I can. So now we're just going to want to work the lip. Kind of work the lip up. But now we have gotten rid of the complete run. So as you can see, the run's gone. So now we're going to come back with our 400 grit sandpaper and just smooth and work the area around, get rid of the deeper scratches. You can come back in with some 600 and then 800 if you really wanted to really get it perfect. I can still feel this is a pretty big lip, so that clogged up because 400 is going to clog up really quickly. Let's kind of just bevel this so it's a smooth transition. Get another edge that's not clogged up already. So now, take us some paper towel with some rubbing alcohol. And it is a little chilly in here this morning. Let's wipe this down and let's see what we got. So now the run is gone. Be careful, we don't want to scratch the paint up with the dust. But now the run is gone. It looks good. It's got a nice bevel here. I gotta work on this a little bit, but I can do that. So that's a way to get rid of the run. You don't ruin your paint job. It's not the end of the world if you get a run in the paint. It is what it is. Just some time. Just be careful. Don't put too many coats on at one time. Do your normal coat painting, your normal tack coat, your second little bit wetter coat, the wetter coat, and then just keep building them up. So that way the paint has something to adhere to. The problem is when I was painting this line down here, I got a little carried away on the last coat, which until the airplane was upside down, so of course gravity run. Now there is one more way to fix a run. You can do what's called a flood coat. This doesn't really work on curved areas because no matter how you do it, if the run is up here and you flood it, it's going to keep going down, but the run's going to come down here. So the flood coat doesn't work for this, but if it's a flat piece, like say you're painting a wing or a servo cover, you can flood the area with paint and literally just flood the run and just keep putting paint on it until it all runs off. Now, I don't really recommend doing a flood coat, but you can if you're not worried about weight and whatnot. So there's a couple different ways to fix runs, but now I'm going to get this taped up and get ready to paint the next coat of paint. So now we got the last coat of the light gray done. So we got the whole top of the nose finished around. Of course, we didn't get the tip of the nose because from this line forward will be yellow. So we only just did a light coat on here, but we will tape this all off. That's the last is the yellow. So we got the tip curve around here done, all the bottom. But as you can see, it's not fully painted here. And of course, the run that we fixed isn't fully painted. So now it is time to wipe the whole aircraft off really good with some alcohol and a microfiber rag. Get every bit of dust and debris off. We did get the top of the wing done. And the top of the tip tanks done, and we got the tail section done. So now the top of the stabs, the rudder, everything is painted. Bottom as well is painted. Bottom of the aircraft is painted. So now it is time to mark off the camo. So we are going to use some of this Great Plains 1/8 inch easy masking tape. It is flexible. I bought this stuff at my local hobby shop. It was $1 for this big roll. It's great stuff. You don't have to buy the Great Plains. I don't even think they make this stuff anymore. But you can get all different kinds of sizes of, pinstripe masking tape. This is made for cars, so when you're painting car bodies in the RC world or real cars if you're taping off lines, doing any kind of graphics. So we're going to take this and we are going to start about here. I have the pictures on my phone to look at. So we're going to start about here and we're just going to tape off a Camo Design. And it's going to come through the wing about halfway, come back up and through, come up through the fuselage, down and around like this. And it's going to come back here and kind of follow this line like that. So that's the hence on why we didn't paint any of this, because this is all going to be done in this dark charcoal gray, which is this stuff. So it is Rust-Oleum gloss charcoal gray will be the coat that we were doing for this, and the silver that we already did is charcoal or is gloss smoke gray. Sorry, I can't even speak yet. So this is the light color that we did. This is going to be the dark color that we did. Excuse me. And then we got the canopy painted. So now the canopy is ugly. My buddy Ed likes it. He likes the yellow 10. I think it looks terrible because it's old. I tried to buff it out. It didn't come out really good. So my grandfather is actually making a new vacuum former right now. So once he gets done with the vacuum former, I am going to make a mold of this canopy. And I am going to pull a brand new one because this canopy looks terrible. But for now, I had to go ahead and paint the line just so it would match when it was done. You can tell the back of the canopy does have a crack in it right there. And the bottom part of the canopy is just all old and melted up from sunlight. So we are going to end up pulling a new canopy eventually, but for right now it'll work. At least it'll match the paint job and it'll look okay. It won't look great. So that's going to be the one downfall. And also the tip tank lights. We won't have these on it yet because one's completely disintegrated, the other one's busted up. So I have to make a mold of those and vacuum pull the tip tank lights and the canopy, which I will have the mold. So if any of you guys have a SAPAC L-39 and you need a canopy or you need tip tank lights, let me know and I will have the mold and I can pull them and sell you a canopy and tip tank lights. I'm also going to do the same thing for the SAPAC 70mm T45 as well as the SAPAC 100mm T45. But that's for another video. So now we're going to go ahead and start taping, and I will be back once we get it taped off and get the dark charcoal gray sprayed. So we have the rough outline put down now of the camo. So we just went around. Now I got to go around with the heat gun and make sure that everything is stuck down really good so we get a nice clean crisp line. So now I'm going to go around, make sure everything is stuck down good. I'm going to cut it here so I can take the wing back off and then finish it so that way when the wing is off the airplane it doesn't look bad. It looks completed and it'll be easier for me to paint this way. But now I get to tape it all off. So now I'm going to use some wrapping paper, which I'll show you in a second. You get it real cheap at the dollar store. Wrapping paper works great for taping off an entire airplane like this. And then we're going to go through with painter's tape and lay it down, and then with the fresh X-Acto blade we're just going to trace our line, and that takes a while, but it's the only way to do it right. Peel it all off. Everything will be taped off with masking tape and wrapping paper. We can spray the color and peel it all off. So I'll be back once I get it ready for paint. So after about almost 2 hours of taping all of it off, trimming it, we are wrapped up and ready for paint. So again, just regular old Christmas wrapping paper. Get it at the dollar store, super cheap, and works great for taping stuff off or masking it off for paint. It's wrapped around, of course. But we are officially ready for paint. Everything looks good. Everything is sealed off the best that it can be. So now I'm going to wipe it down one more time. Make sure all my fingerprints, oils for my fingers are off of it. Make sure it is clean, microfiber rag, and rubbing alcohol. And we are ready to lay some color. So I'm going to wipe it down and start adding color. So I will be back when the color is added. So we got the dark gray laid down. We untaped all of it. It came out really good. I am extremely happy. It came out much better than I was expecting, honestly. But we have a little bit of overspray here, but we can take care of that once the paint fully cures. We have some bleed through on the tape lines, like right here and right here, but again, we can fix that after the paint fully cures. So I am extremely happy. I am going to set the airplane aside for the night, let it fully dry, and then once it dries, we have to do the yellow. So the tip of the nose is yellow, the nose cone, the tip of the rudder, the tip of the elevators, top and bottom are yellow, and the bottom portion of the tip tank is yellow. So once that dries, we will tape it all back off again, paint the yellow, and then we can be done with the paint work, completely untape everything, and get ready for the decals. And then the paint job will be done, the decals will be done, and we could get to rewiring it, putting all new battery tray in, mounting the air valve, all that stuff. Make it a nice redo, make it a great flyer, and make it just perfect. Well, perfect to me. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video off here. I will do part 3, will be the finishing of the paint work, the start of the decals, all that good stuff. We don't have much left to do on this build, but I am extremely pleased. Everything came out as good as it could come out. Bottom, perfect tape line. We have the nice camo. We did get some peel here. We got one spot that peeled, but that's okay. I'll touch that up with some paint, and then we have a decal that goes there, so you'll never be able to tell. But the run that we had came out perfectly. We got the camo done like we wanted. Remember, this is the side that had the run in it, and you can't tell at all that there was a run at all. So I'm happy. Everything came out great. It looks good. I know Ed's happy with it. So the SAPAC L-39 paint job is almost complete. So thank you guys so much for watching. In part 3, we'll finish the paint job and get to the decal work. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Have a great day.